Hi everyone, and welcome to the Gladiator Rite of Champions Season 2 2025 recap video. I won the event. I won it with Sultai midrange, so I won my third event. And in this video, I'm just going to talk about the deck and a little bit about how it works and some of the card choices and why I decided to play it. I'm going to go through each of the matches that I played, which might take a while, but hopefully that should be fun. And then close out with a couple ending remarks. So let's get into it. So it's just Sultai midrange with a lot of the cards you would probably expect. There's nothing super unique or wild going on here, but it just takes advantage of a lot of the natural strengths of this color pairing. I think this deck has a pretty even matchup against most things. You've got tools to fight a lot of different angles, which I think makes it a good choice for a lot of events, especially an event where you don't really know what your opponents are going to be playing. I didn't really know. I suspected my first opponent would be on Mardu Aristocrats, but I wasn't certain about that. And then, after the first match, it just depends on who wins, but obviously I had no idea who would win. So I thought this would be probably a good idea into most things. I also did quite well with it in the matches that I played this week before the event. I just decided that I was going to start testing with this deck, and it went well, so I just kept doing it. If I had been losing horribly, if I was not doing well at all, I probably would have switched to blue-white control or maybe Jeskai, but I was doing very well. So I thought, okay, I'll just keep playing this, keep refining this, try to make it as good as I can, and I'll run with that. And it worked very well. I think a lot of the reason why this deck works is because it just naturally has a lot of tools to deal with both very aggressive and controlling decks. And then, of course, against mid-range decks, it can just play in between and use both sides. So we have a lot of good cheap cards. You can see the 1-drop slot is the tallest pile here, which I really like. And we have a lot of good blockers, stuff like Fanatic of Ronus, Orcish Bowmasters, Endurance, Nadu, cards to just really shut down aggro decks. And you also have some fantastic value engines, stuff like Verdant Dread, Oasis of Renewal, and Palantir, which can close out a game against other mid-range decks or against control decks. If one of these resolves, it can be very difficult to deal with. So overall, and none of these cards are worthless in any specific matchup, right? It's not like Endurance does nothing against a slower deck, or that Oasis of Renewal does nothing against a more aggressive deck. So it all just kind of works pretty well. One of the other big advantages that you get is you get to play Neoform and Eldritch Evolution in conjunction with Abhorrent Oculus. I got pretty lucky to see these cards a lot today. And that's one of the advantages that you get is it's a 2-card combo, but you only need to draw one of the cards, right? You have Neoform in any 2-drop, and you can just get a 6/6 Abhorrent Oculus and play on turn 3, which is a really, really strong thing to do. That's one of the big draws to playing blue-green. And then black just supplements it with some good disruption and some specifically powerful cards like Oasis, Nashi, Fergal, Harvester of Misery, that kind of thing. There's also a decent amount of graveyard hate to deal with, Reanimator and other sort of graveyard combo-y style decks. One card that I do want to call out that I think I maybe should have cut, but I think I made that decision a little too late, is Thassa's Oracle. I did have Demonic Bargain, I believe is a 3-mana tutor in this deck, up close until the time of the event, and I cut it for something else, and that makes Thassa's Oracle a lot worse because it's much harder now to tutor for Tainted Pact. The only way I really have to do this, I think, is assemble the team, which only has a 1/3 chance to actually hit it. So I never did a Pact Oracle win, and I think I probably should have cut Thassa's Oracle because of that, because I'm basically just counting on my chance of drawing both of them naturally, or at least drawing the Tainted Pact naturally. Which the fact that I can tutor for Thassa's Oracle does mean that there's some value to having it, because it means if I draw Tainted Pact, I'm really likely to win because I have all these ways to find the other side. And there's also the fact that Thassa's Oracle is not a dead card if I just draw it and play it normally. It's not good, but it, at the very least, does something. So maybe it was an alright decision, but I'm a lot more skeptical of it in hindsight. In terms of how it plays, in general, you can have really explosive turn 4 and turn 5 plays, especially if you have some mana ramp. Maybe you can get an Oculus in play, maybe you tutor for a Nashi, you have stuff like Oasis of Renewal and either a Scavenging Ooze or a Baconia. Like, there are a lot of ways to, on turn 4 or 5, generate a massive advantage, and so you just got to make sure you survive to get there, and then can close out the game afterwards, and the deck is fairly good at doing both of those things. So it worked out really well. And with that, the round 1 recap will be coming up right now. All right, let's get started with match 1. So this is my opening hand, which is a pretty kind of an ambitious keep with 5 lands, but the idea is I can play Deathrite Shaman on turn 1, and then I can play Verdant Dread on turn 2 and play the Surveil. And because I have a 1-drop and a 2-drop, I don't need to hit a spell right away. I just need to find like a 3 or a 4 mana spell that I could even cast on turn 3 in my top couple cards. So I think it's a decent keep, especially on play. Maybe it's a bit riskier on the draw, but I think it's okay. I do make a mistake here on turn 2. I should play the Verdant Dread first and then the Undercity Sewers, because if I hit a card like an Oasis of Renewal, then if I play Verdant Dread, I just lose it. So that was a pretty big mistake. Fortunately for me, the card on top is Jet Collector, so I can manifest it and then just flip it up next turn. Still a mistake, still something I shouldn't have done, but it was not as bad for me as it could have been. A Curse Marauder comes down, and I just sack the Deathrite Shaman because I can use Jet Collector to bring it back. So I go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. I use the fetch land. I bring back the Deathrite Shaman, and now I'm set up to start activating Verdant Dread next turn. They play Sephiroth, but I draw Wingbane Vantasaur, which is a pretty good draw. So I can just kill the Sephiroth, and then from here, I mean, at the end of this turn, you'll see I have 4 creatures in play, and they have none, and it's turn 4. So at this point, I'm just very far ahead. They play another creature, I attack, and the game ends pretty quickly. Going into game 2, let's see if I get my opening hand. So this hand doesn't do... Like, this hand needs to draw a card that does something, but if I do, it's very powerful. I have Inquisition to disrupt them, Fanatic on 2, Dark Ritual potentially the next turn. Like, if this hand draws a card that does something powerful that generates me advantage, it's going to be incredibly strong. And I'm on the draw, so I don't really mind having to draw into it, especially when I have something to do on turn 1 and 2 that's pretty good. They have a Forsaken Miner, and Assemble the Team is a great draw. So on turn 1, I play Inquisition of Kozilek, and I see Flage and Swords. Swords, of course, very good against Fanatic Runners. Flage, like the front half of Flage, you play it for 3 mana, it deals 3 damage, not that good. It will be able to take out the Fanatic, but if they want to spend 3 mana doing that, I'm not that worried. So I go ahead and I take the Swords away. Turn 2, I just play Fanatic, I draw Dig Up, and at this point, I feel very good about this. And actually, my plan right now is to play Assemble the Team for either Thassa's Oracle or Tainted Pact, and then play Dig Up for the other one, and then just win the turn after. And because I have the Fanatic and the Dark Ritual, I have a lot of mana, so I should be set up to do that. So, did I have enough? Yeah, so the turn after this, on turn 3, I would have here, I can just fast forward a little. They attack. I decide to block because if they want to Flage, then I'm fine with that. But if they don't Flage, then here you can see I've got 4 mana after I play the land. Dark Ritual puts me at 6, and then I could play Assemble the Team and Dig Up. So I would actually be able to hit both parts of the combo here. But the problem is I only have Scalding Tarn for blue mana. So I can't actually cast the Thassa's Oracle. And that would cost every spell in my hand to get a Tainted Pact and a Thassa's Oracle that I can't cast. So if I draw the blue source, I win the game. If I don't, my hand doesn't really do anything. And that's a cost that I was unwilling to take. So I cast Assemble the Team, but I do find, I believe I take Fergal here, because it blocks these two very well. And then also is good with Dig Up, because it creates more mana, so now I can tutor for something that I can probably cast. So I go ahead and take Fergal, and I Dark Ritual into it. And now I'm set up pretty well, but they do have this Butcher of the Horde, which is pretty frightening. Maybe I should have gone for... Casting Tutors is always hard. I think getting Fergal was fine there, because it gets me on board very quickly, or if I go for a removal spell, then I'm a lot slower, my hand doesn't really do as much, the Dig Up is going to take a lot longer to get out. Maybe I should have just done that, because Butcher of the Horde is one of the easiest ways for me to lose this game. But, what's done is done. Glory Reveal, not a great draw, because I can't cast it. But I can play this Dig Up after attacking. And I have two major options here. Option one is I get Horn Oculus and I cast it. It can block the Butcher of the Horde. It'll make me more creatures. If it hits a good creature that has an ability, I can flip it up and use it, and that'll be good. And I believe they only had like 4 removal spells in their deck that could kill the Oculus. It would have been like 4 or 5. And I already got rid of one with the swords, and they only have 1 Unknown card. So I think the odds of them being able to kill the Oculus are very low. Not 0, but pretty low. The other option is just get like a Go for Throat or something and kill Butcher of the Horde. Or I guess get Fatal Push here. Which, in hindsight, is probably a better idea, because the Oculus would have to block the Butcher anyway, so I'd get 1 Manifest, which is still good, but does incur a lot of risk, because if they do have that other removal spell, I'm very likely to just lose the game immediately, because they attack me with Butcher down to 5, Flage, knock me down to 2, next turn they recast Flage and I lose. So I did go for the Oculus here, because I thought, oh, they just almost certainly don't have removal, and I want this Manifest. But as we'll see, this card was a removal spell, it was a Path to Exile. So that was unfortunate. But I did get a bit of a break, even though they had it. In that, on the Manifest, I hit Birds of Paradise, which can chump the Butcher of the Horde and keep me alive for a turn. Still a problem in that I'm still actually dead next turn if I don't draw removal for the Butcher. So all that this does is give me another chance to draw removal. So I chump Butcher of the Horde, they Flage, I go to 7, I draw land. So at this point, it's all up to Lorien Revealed. I can attack with the Leech, because it's a free attack. I sack it to Fergal, draw 3 cards, and I hit the Fatal Push, which is huge, because it means I'm alive. I also hit Generous End, which can block Flage. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm in a decent position. I've got this Beseiju for the Reflection. So I can Surveil, I Surveil land in the graveyard, I kill the Butcher, play the Nethergoyf, and I'm set up to cast Generous End next turn. They go ahead and Surveil, they cast Flage, I go to 4. And on my turn, I have a very good draw, Eldritch Evolution. Now I have a lot of options for what I can do here. I could get like a Nashi and try to get back a card, but because I exiled my graveyard with the Horn Oculus, I'm pretty sure it's like a Fatal Push, but there's like a Lorien Revealed. Like, my graveyard's not great, and I can't get back Eldritch Evolution because it exiles itself on resolution. So, what I decided to go for, I could get like Cunning Azure Scale if I sack the Leech, but I'm still potentially in danger of just dying to this Flage, being at 4. So instead, what I go for after I attack is I go for Uro. This will gain me 6 life because I can escape it right away. So it'll gain me 6 life and draw me 2 cards. It can block the Flage, and it can attack and do it again next turn. The other thing I can do is sacrifice it to Fergal in response to the sacrifice trigger to get a bunch more mana, so that I can also play the Generous End and potentially something else that I drew. So I go ahead, I escape Uro, I play Generous End, and now with the dig through time, I think I'm in a very good position. I use Beseiju to kill the Reflection, just in case anything funky happens. And at this point, I'm very far ahead. They draw Wriggling Grub and Priest of Forgotten Gods, but neither of those deal with Uro, and Uro is going to generate me a ton of advantage here. So I go ahead and attack. I eternalize the Fanatic. I get another Leech. And actually, next turn I end up having lethal. They cast Ob Nixilis, sacrificing the Flage, but they only make one creature, which I kill with Orcish Bowmasters, and then attack with everything, and that's lethal damage. And that's match one. Yeah, I think in general this matchup is pretty good. They certainly have the potential to have curves that are difficult to deal with, but I think I have just enough interaction and the right type of interaction to deal with what they can do, and it's a lot harder for them to deal with some of the things that I can do. Stuff like the Eldritch Evolution is really good against them. So that's the first match, 2-0 win, and see you in match 2. All right. So going into match 2, my opponent is on Teamer Ramp. And this match, as you'll see in game 1, has the potential to go very long and be very grindy and create a lot of permanence, which is exactly what is about to happen. Getting into my opening hand, I don't think this hand is very good. I think I should have... or did I mulligan this hand? No. All right. I should have mulligan this hand. This hand is bad. Because what you need against Ramp is... Let me pull it back up. What you really need against Ramp is some way to disrupt them early. Like, cheap removal is really, really good against them because they often rely on mana dorks instead of rampant growth type effects to get their ramp going. So if you can kill a mana dork or two, it's relatively easy to strand them with like 6 mana cards in their hand that they just can't cast, or it takes too long for them to cast. So then by turn 3 and 4, you're playing cards like Jace. They might not be playing anything, or they might just have to play another ramp spell because they don't have enough to cast their 6 or 7 mana card. And that puts you at a pretty big advantage. Nadu doesn't really do anything here. They're just not really targeting my stuff, and it's not like I'm going to kill them quickly, especially not with this hand. Generous Scent is basically just a land. Ghost Vacuum barely does anything. Jace is really slow. Like, this is the kind of hand, it looks functional, but it really just doesn't do anything. So I'm really not happy with this keep, but I kept it, and here we are. You can see they played a Mana Dork and then another one, and I didn't do anything. I have a Baleful Strix to draw a card, and Damnation is a pretty good draw, because it means that if I can survive 2 more turns from them, I can Damnation, clear away the board, and reset, and hopefully they won't be able to come back from that. I'll be able to Ghost Vacuum away the Fanatics. They can't bring that back either. But Mythweaver Pock is a very good card here. And now I play the Ghost Vacuum, and here I make a mistake. We'll see. They play Overlord, and then they attack with the Pock. And that surprises me, because Pock is very good. Why would you want to attack with it? The answer is because they have Analyzed the Pollen, which if I was if I had recognized that, I would have been able to ruin it by blocking. It dies, and then I eat it with the Ghost Vacuum still in combat. And then they wouldn't have enough evidence to collect for the Analyze. But I did not think about that. You can see there's a pause here as I'm thinking about what could they have? Why would they attack with Mythweaver Pock? And I go ahead and I block, but I don't hold priority to use the Ghost Vacuum. And now it's too late. And now they can Analyze, and they get Null Drifter. I'm not certain why they got Null Drifter. It doesn't seem... I'm not very familiar with this deck, so like I'm not really one to talk, but I was... I felt good about seeing them take Null. If that was the best card in their deck that they could get, I thought, okay, that's pretty solid for me. Especially because since I'm about to cast this Damnation, they won't be able to cast it for 7 next turn. So that's pretty good. I cast the Damnation, they cast the Null Drifter, good stuff. And now on an empty board, they do have 6 mana. So I'm worried about them potentially having a good card to cast next turn, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it anyway, so I just play my Jace, and I feel pretty good right now. Not amazing, but pretty good. Because I think I can probably deal with most of the things that they play for 6 mana. But the thing that they have for 6 mana is Dragonback Assault, which first of all kills the Jace, which is kind of wild. And secondly is an enchantment, which I don't have an answer for right now. Now, I was fortunate that they didn't have another land to play. They already had the 6 mana to play this at the start of the turn. But still, this is a problem that I'm going to have to deal with. Now, Oasis plus Ghost Vacuum is a great combo, so that would be able to probably hold it off for long enough. If it weren't for the fact that very shortly after this, I cast a Brainstorm, I do some stuff. They play a Verdant Dread. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm in deep trouble. I have to deal with all these dragons. They had a fetch land, so they got 2 dragons. They have Tyler's Provisioner. They have a ton of mana, so if they have some big bomb, they can cast that too. And they have Verdant Dread, so at the very least, they're just going to make a ton of creatures. But I can't slow them down. Now, the problem is, trying to slow somebody down when they have Verdant Dread is not a great plan. It doesn't really do all that much. But Oasis Ghost Vacuum is also very strong, so maybe I can get there. I play Nashi, and I can either take Analyze or Damnation. The thing is, even if I take Analyze, I don't really have any creatures in my deck right now that are good enough to beat this Verdant Dread. Like a Harvester of Misery doesn't really help me because it doesn't kill either of these 2 dragons that I need to deal with. So I go ahead and take the Damnation so that I can cast it at instant speed on their turn, and then I can be the first one to deploy back to the board on my turn. Which, instant speed Wrath is really good, so as far as it goes, it's not that bad. Because I can also take this opportunity to play Oasis. I get 2 cards. I pass the turn. They play Deathrite Shaman. They attack me. They make another Verdant Dread. And on the instant, now I can start using the Ghost Vacuum to draw extra cards, and I can Damnation to clear away the board. Or they already had the Verdant, or they flipped up the Deathrite Shaman, excuse me, yes. So I clear away the board, I Ghost Vacuum Nashi, because eventually I can crack the Ghost Vacuum. I do have some pretty good creatures under it right now, so I'm not in a terrible position. Like my plan, I can sacrifice the Ghost Vacuum, I get the Nashi back, I can get another Damnation, recast it, or I can get Analyze to get Harvester, which would still not be great because all those 1/1 tokens would die to a Harvester, but it's just another way to slow them down and maybe buy myself another turn. Well, there's also a Scavenging Ooze in there, which is good with the Oasis, so I've got some options. But I go out for this turn, though, is I play the Uro. It gains me life, which is actually relevant here, because if I can survive 1 attack from a Verdant Dread army, that can buy me another turn to play setup spells, play card advantage, and not have to play a Wrath. So it lets me spend my mana in a better way and buy me some extra time. And also, casting Uro will get me Oasis triggers here, which is pretty good. So here... Okay, I lead with Uro. Exile 5 cards, leave Analyze and Damnation, which are the 2 most potentially useful. Here I can put a land into play. I can Inquisition away Rampant Growth, which just represents another dragon. I can play Fuel Tank Feaster, and now I have a lot of mana and an Oasis and a Vacuum. So I have a lot going on, but I still don't have a permanent answer to this Verdant Dread. Like, they're just going to make an army that threatens to kill me every turn, and every turn I'm going to have to find an answer. Now, this is maybe the best setup to be able to do that, but it's still going to potentially be kind of difficult. Having the Thassa's Oracle does mean that if I draw Tainted Pact, I'm in a good position, but I do need to draw the Tainted Pact, which, again, because I don't really have any tutors for it in my deck, is not guaranteed. So they go ahead, they play land, they make another Verdant Dread, they make a bunch more creatures, and now with Uro active, I'm in a position to attack, so I can get another card, and you can see I have a ton of cards in hand. It's just that none of them really deal with these Verdant Dreads. I can Fatal Push the Dragon to keep my Uro alive another turn, which is pretty good. And then, I mean, from here, there's like a ton of decision points. I go ahead and use the Ghost Vacuum here so I can get another look off Oasis right now. I go for the Throat, which is not bad. And now I can just deploy the board. I've got a bunch of mana. I can leave up Counterspell, Fell the Profane, Cut Down, Kish the Village activation. I have a lot of potential to waste using mana. They make a bunch more tutus. They have, how many is it at this point? Like 10 or something? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's like 12. So, like, this is the problem, right? Is that we're at the point where basically every turn they can make an army that can kill me. So I have to deal with it every single turn. Good news is I have ways of dealing with that. I cut down one of them. I tried to pick the one where a tireless tracker got sent to the graveyard because that was the one I thought was most likely to be a creature. You can like mind game people where if you think the creature isn't relevant, then you put the creature in the graveyard to make them think that there's a creature as the manifest when there isn't, so they use their removal spells on that one. But if I didn't use it on that one, I would be using it on some other one, and I'd have no way of knowing if it was a good creature or not. So I think I think that's just what you have to do. Here I can use Kishla Village. I see Beseiju. Beseiju could take out Dragonback Assault, which would be pretty nice because it would mean that Harvester of Misery would now clear their whole board, which would be really nice. But I decided at this point I need something a little bit more powerful. So I go ahead and pitch that, and I think I draw the Scalding turn anyway, so that's whatever. I attack with Uro and 6 because I want to see if I can hit anything good in the graveyard. Again, if I ever hit Tainted Pact, I do just win. So at this point, I'm thinking that's a really good option for me. And I actually flip a Cunning Azure Scale because it has Flash. I can cast it during combat before the 6 dies. So I go ahead and do that. Another Oasis trigger. I get on my card. 2 more non-land cards. None of them are Tainted Pact, but I'm still working towards being in a position where I can actually work through these Verdant Dreads. And it is possible for them to mill themselves out with Verdant Dread. Now, they only have, like, the next activation will mill themselves 12 cards. And then the next one is 14, and the next one is 16. So they don't have infinite activations of Verdant Dread. And especially if they want to activate it twice in the same turn, and then I Harvester and deal with everything, that can actually be a real win condition. If they only activate it once in a turn, I have so many cards and I have so much mana that I might not need to Harvester because I can just deal with the tutus. The worry is that they hit like some really good creature. I think they were on Emrakul, and that would be difficult to deal with. But like it is able to be dealt with, and especially getting the Eldritch Evolution here was a really good hit because it means, as you'll see, I can play Boggart Trawler for 2, cost reduced by the Fuel Tank Feaster. And then I can Eldritch Evolution the Harvester to wipe the board. I think I could have dealt 2 damage to the dragon with 6 in that combat. I think that's how it works. I don't remember entirely, but I do remember thinking that was a possibility, that was probably something I should have done. But it doesn't super end up mattering in this case because I have to go for the Throat to deal with it. So, and like, it is the most powerful single creature that they're probably going to have for the game because they're just going to be activating Verdant Dread. But I think that was still a mistake. Now, here I actually got pretty lucky because they drew a good spell. If they didn't draw a good spell, they'd probably just activate Verdant Dread. But they drew Ornate Imitations, and me having left up the counterspell becomes incredibly important because that means this turn they put nothing in play. Now, maybe like there's a world where I let this resolve because usually the creatures you get off this card are really terrible. But I mean, this is surely the best chance to counterspell I'm going to get, and it also means that I'm in a position now where I can attack. I've got 11 damage on board, and then I can play this Abhorrent Oculus and have 2 flyers that are presenting lethal, and they actually go ahead and concede here. I don't think they were dead, especially because they didn't know what was in my hand. Like if they drew I'm pretty sure they were on Emrakul. Like if they drew Emrakul and they found like my Toxic Deluge, they could just make me die. But they were almost certainly dead next turn because I kill the dragon, I attack for 11, I play Oculus, I now have 2 5-power flyers, and if they activate Verdant Dread, I don't think there's anything they could hit that would do it, so they would have to draw a spell that does it. Um, so I think I have this game. This was a wild game. Um, One of the wilder games I've ever played. I mean, trying to work through 4 or 5 Verdant Dreads and a Dragon Back Assault. But Ghost Vacuum plus Oasis. I mean, I lost track of how many cards Oasis got me. It's probably in the realm of like 10 or something. Like this card has the potential to just go absolutely nuts. It's really, really wild. Also, Harvester of Misery continues to just be phenomenal. This card is so good. I think it should just be in basically every black deck. It's so, so good. Game 2 was a lot less eventful. You can see they mulligan to 5. So we're off to not a great start. I have a Malevolent Rumble, which finds the Oasis. There we go. And I have Iconia, so I can start activating it. They do draw Mythweaver Pock, which is really good, but they don't have another land to go with it. I surveil a Boggart Trawler into the graveyard, and I get unable to scream, so I just turn off the Pock. They do have removal for the Oasis, and my hand is not great. But Brainstorm is pretty good, and then I draw Eldritch Evolution. I mean, this card is just so good in this deck. Really, this is one of the best reasons to play this deck, honestly. This card is just so phenomenally strong. So I just cast Brainstorm, put away 2 lands, and then I can Evolution into Oculus, put Wingmate Mantisaur in play. They draw a Eureka Moment, which doesn't impact the board. It finds them their 5th land, but at this point they're just too far behind on board. I attack with everything. I play out some more creatures, and that's match 2. Another 2-0. This matchup is, I think, it's probably good on average, but it is a lot scarier because they can go over the top of you, right? Emrakul is a hard card for this deck to deal with, where like you have these very powerful turn 4, turn 5s, but if they cast an Emrakul on turn 7, it might not be enough. And you don't always have enough ways to disrupt that sort of thing. So a bit of a frightening matchup, but I did get a 2-0 out of it. And that brings me to match 3. All right, so let's get into match 3. I'm starting 4 turns in because I forgot to hit the start recording button until 4 turns in. The big thing that happened in this game is this Ragavan in my opponent's hand hit a Thoughtseize off the top of my deck. It was actually a little sad because right before it hit me, I said out loud, if it's Thoughtseize, and just kind of let that trail, and then it was. So that was unfortunate, and that took away an Assemble team, which would have been really good with this Oasis renewal. If I get something like a Scavenging Ooze or a Baconia, I could just start going off. I can sack it to this Eldritch Evolution, so I can get another good card. And I think I would have been in a much better spot this game. So I'll just have the recording going through it. Drawing the Delighted Halfling was a good draw, but it was not... Like, drawing a creature here was definitely important because it meant I could actually do something. But it does mean, one, that I have to fetch a Breeding Pool with the Flooded Strand, so I go to 6. And here, let me just pull up my... I think I pulled up my graveyard. If it was a 2-drop, it would have been a lot better, because then I think I would have gotten Nashi and gotten back the Scavenging Ooze. And again, with Oasis of Renewal, that would have been really good. Could have gained me some life. I maybe could have gotten Assemble the team or something. But I probably would have just gotten Scavenging Ooze, because it's so good with Oasis. But it is what it is, so I play that, I sack this, and now I have a couple options here. I could have gone for like an Abhorrent Oculus. So my thinking here was, if they have removal, then Abhorrent Oculus is not the best card, because it's just going to give me a 2/2, and that's all I'm going to have. Whereas Jet Collector will let me get a creature back right now, which will get me an Oasis trigger, so I'll actually get a non-land card in my hand, and that's probably better than getting a Manifest Dread. One of the problems with this argument is that if it's a damage-based removal spell, Abhorrent Oculus might be able to dodge it, and Jet Collector can't, and that's something that I probably should have put more thought into. We'll see in a second that I believe what they have here is Bitter Triumph, so it doesn't actually end up mattering all that much. There's a couple other options. I could have gone for like Glarb or something, but I think Jet Collector is pretty close to the best option because it guarantees me a card right now, and if it survives next turn, I can get back the Scavenging Ooze, and then I can really start going off. Like, if I can make it to the next turn with the Jet Collector, I'm in fantastic position. I'll get the Delighted Halfling to potentially block this Ragavan or any other haste creature. So I went for a high upside play. They had Prismatic Ending. So yeah, it still could have killed the Oculus. I hit Harvester of Misery, which is kind of nice, but it's unfortunately not enough against Karizev. And then I did keep a Thassa's Oracle on top of my deck because I wanted to, like, looking at 3 cards with a Thassa's Oracle is genuinely not that bad, but unfortunately the way their creatures lined up, it wasn't going to be enough, so I had to Surveil it away, and I drew a Neoform, which I do have a 6-drop. I could have gotten a Cunning Azure Scale, but of course that's not enough to block. So that was game 1, my first game loss of the event. Going into game 2, this opening hand it's not great. I think I would almost certainly mulligan this on the draw, but because I'm on the play, I can get a Surveil land on turn 1, and then I can dismember something on turn 2, and then by turn 3, between the Surveil and the 2 draw steps, I'm fairly likely to have something good to play, and it's got Eldritch Evolution, which sort of a running theme throughout this whole event is that this card is really insanely good in this deck. It's one of the better cards in the deck, one of the better reasons to play it. So this hand needs to draw into something, but there are a lot of live draws. Basically, any creature is an amazing draw. Any removal spell is even fine. I play a removal spell on 2, I play a removal spell on 3, then I play Shoulder on 4, and I can Evo it on 5 and get a Cunning Azure Scale. That's a pretty good curve. It does, of course, have to survive, but that's really not that impossible. They mulliganed to 5 here, and they had a Kithian to lead, and I Surveil, and I draw Dark Ritual. So now I can play Shoulder on turn 2, and that also means I can Eldritch Evo it into a Cunning Azure Scale on turn 3, and that would be a really insanely good play for me. So that's what I go for, because yeah, they might have removal here, but if they don't, I kind of just win the game on the spot, most likely. Unfortunately, this is the game where they have Bitter Triumph, so now it gets a lot harder for me. But again, I'm drawing into basically any creature here. Like, they need to kill every creature I play, or else I'm going to get to use Eldritch Evolution and get a massive advantage. So Boggart Trawler, while one of the worst creatures I could draw here, is still good enough as just a thing that can be sacked to Eldritch Evolution. They steal my Oasis, but it's not going to matter, because I can now Eldritch Evo into Harvester of Misery and clear the board. Now, on their turn, they just pass here, which is a little strange because they didn't even play a land, right? And they have this land that they want to sacrifice to draw a card. So what the card that they have here is Iganjo. And I probably could have gotten a read on this and Neoformed the Harvester without attacking. But the other thing is, they do have cards like Felia and Orcish Bowmasters that have Flash. And since they're all the way at 10, even though I don't think I attacked them once this game. I think they just paid 3 life to the Bitter Triumph. They paid a bunch of life with Sunbait Canyon. They cracked a fetch. I might have had like the Shouldered 2 life, but basically because they're all the way down at 10, I think if I just attack with Harvester here, I can win this game pretty quick, and they probably don't have removal. But of course they do. Now, fortunately for me, I drew another creature, so I can use this Neoform, and I go for an Oculus here, which is somewhat of a risky play, because if they do have removal, it's not great for me. But fortunately for me, they don't have anything that can kill the Oculus. They use the removal on the other creatures, and I'm able to get through with just the one attack step. Because they had to pay even more life for this, or they had dismember. No, I had dismember. Right, they paid more life for the Switchgrass Grazer, and I was able to get the attack in and win game 2. Which takes me to game 3. I'm on the draw. This hand is really counting on this Damnation to go off, but Damnation is really good against them because they're an aggro deck. So if I can get it off, that's really good. I've got Birds of Paradise to help me accelerate into it, and Uro as a good, like if I go turn 1 Birds of Paradise, turn 2 Uro, turn 3 Damnation, that's a really good curve. Now, they can kill the Birds of Paradise, but the good news is if they take the time to kill it, that hopefully slows their curve down enough that with Uro and Damnation in combination, I won't die before I get to turn 4. And then this will be a massive play, and then hopefully at some point I can bring back Uro, and that'll close the door on the game. So I think it's a pretty good keep. They mulligan to 6, and the bad news is they do have Duress on turn 1. And that is pretty bad for me, because it means that now I don't really have any good plan to deal with creatures. It does mean they don't have a 1-drop, so I can play this Birds of Paradise into an empty board. And drawing Counterspell and Fanatic Erroneous. Again, like I'm drawing pretty well, in that I'm just drawing spells here, which is good. I opt for the Fanatic Erroneous here because I just want to get it on the board. I suspect that they have either Felia or Bowmasters, right? Because those are the 2-mana flash threats. And like if I play Uro now, I'm not going to be able to use the extra mana next turn, at least not with the cards I have. I'm not going to be able to escape it. So I just want to get the Fanatic out. It's a really good blocker, and it can help me accelerate, so maybe if I draw something good, I can play next turn. They have Felia. And they also have a Dismember, which they use on the Fanatic runs. And that's totally fine for me, because the Felia is not really doing anything besides just attacking for 2 right now. So that's alright. Now, here, I could bring back the Fanatic, but of course if I did, it would just die to this Felia. So I want to use Unable to Scream on it before I bring back the Fanatic. So I go for Uro, and I leave up blue for Counterspell. And having the Birds of Paradise here does make that a pretty obvious Counterspell, because it means, like, it signifies that I definitely have something that I want to do, and I specifically left up a blue mana for it. So I think my opponent probably, like, had it in their mind that, like, yeah, it's probably Counterspell. And I want to tap the Birds of Paradise, because in case they have, like, Lightning Bolt on it or something, then they could just go to their second main phase and play a spell, and I wouldn't have the mana for Counterspell. And I don't really want to protect the birds anymore, because it's not really... like, it's good, but it's not that good. Fortunately, for me at this point, they just sort of don't have enough spells. They were on a mulligan to 6 on the play, and they've had some removal, but they just haven't really, with the removal spell and the Duress and 4 lands, like, they just haven't been able to get enough of a board presence to really start challenging me. And because I've drawn, like, did I draw, like, 4 spells in a row? Like, I drew a lot of spells, which is pretty fortunate. Yeah, at this point, like, with the Fanatic and the Uro already here, a lot of what I draw is just going to be really good. I just sort of needed to play it. Graveyard Trespasser does get rid of the Uro, so that's frustrating. But again, I just have so much stuff at this point that it's going to be really hard for them to break through, and my deck can generate so much card advantage and can have these sort of explosive combos in a way that the Mardu deck doesn't really have. So from here, I just bring out this and put the Unable to Scream on the Felia, so I can't get rid of my Fanatic Erroneous. My plan is to Neoform the Birds of Paradise into Scythecat Cub when I draw the fetch land, which I draw next turn. If I didn't, I mean, I could probably Neoform Baleful Strix into... I mean, because I know they have no cards left in hand, I probably just get Oculus and just try to win the game. But at this point, like, I have so many cards, I have a bunch of options. I do kind of mess up because I forget how Scythecat Cup works, and I end up doubling the number of counters on Nadu, which doesn't really help me. And then here I play a little sloppy by playing Wary Zone Guard in the second main, um, but it doesn't end up having a huge impact on the game. And that's the end of match 3. So let's get into match 4. All right, and we're into match 4, the finals. I'm against Mono Red Aggro. Um, and I actually have a really interesting opening hand, I think. So I'm on the play, which is really important for this. If I'm on the draw, I mulligan this every time, right? I just can't impact the board until turn 3. But being on the play and with a surveil land, the odds, like if this hand had a 2-drop, like if this Cunning Atcher Scale was almost any 2-mana play, like this is a snap keep. Endurance and Wingmate Vantasaur are just two of the best cards you can have in the matchup. Like Endurance essentially blocks profitably every creature in their deck that costs 3 or less mana. Well, almost every creature in their deck. You'll see how that goes. But this is so good. Wingbane Vantasaur, kill a creature or naturalize a problematic. Sometimes if they have like a vortex or something that you need to deal with, it does that. And then the 4/5 reach, again, just blocks everything. And like the fact that I'm going to be guaranteed essentially to have a really powerful 3 and 4 mana play, and the fact that like the odds aren't 0 that I draw a 1 or 2 drop that I can play on turn 2. As a bit of a side note, I think that's a problem that I sometimes run into is I think I mulligan more than I should when I watch players who are really good. I think they mulligan less than I do. And something that sort of gets me is I'm bad at recognizing the chance that I actually draw a good card. Like I feel like I evaluate a lot of hands as though I draw nothing relevant, but I think like with a hand like this, recognizing the possibility that if I draw a 2-drop, this hand is really really good, I think makes it a keep, and that's what I did here in this game. Is I did keep this hand, and I think that's a solid keep. I had a good think about it, but I ended up doing it, and I found a Scavenging Ooze on top of my deck with Hedge Maze. So there we go. I have a 2-mana play, and I'm off to the races. I go ahead and block because at this point I just feel like I need to just slow them down, right? Trying to activate the Scavenging Ooze and keep it alive is not really going to help me. I'm going to have to block this anyway. I'm going to have Endurance to block whatever they play here. They play a Grim Lavamancer, which is not something that Endurance is really likely to block. So I end up just going for 6 here. And they play Screaming Nemesis. And this is a really good card. It attacks well into the 6, so I take 3. And also stopping the life gain is really good against me because I do have quite a bit of life gain and I have quite a few ways to find it. So that's one of my best ways to protect myself later in the game. Now, I do attack with 6 here because my plan is to block with the Endurance, and I would like to hit another land. If I hit an untapped land, which I kind of hit, I could play Tameo as well, but I don't really want to pay life when there's a Screaming Nemesis around, because since my plan right now is to play Endurance and block it, I am going to be prevented from gaining life, so I want to protect that as much as possible, and the Tameo might not do anything right now. If they play another haste creature, I'll just block that with the Endurance, and hopefully get far enough ahead that they won't be able to burn me out even with the Screaming Nemesis. Now they attack with Grim Lavamancer here, and maybe I'm supposed to block that, but again, I do just want to protect my life total here, and I want to get the Screaming Nemesis off the table. I figure the Grim Lavamancer is not going to be that big of a threat. Whereas if I leave the Screaming Nemesis alive, I'm taking 3, and the next turn I just have the same problem, right? Because I don't have any removal in my hand, like I'm going to have to bite the bullet on the Screaming Nemesis eventually, and I figure it's probably better to try to do that now, and then I can use Wingbane Vantasaur to kill the Lavamancer, because most of their creatures are relevant when they attack, and Wingbane Vantasaur can block all of them. So my hope is that in the long run, I'm going to take less damage blocking the Screaming Nemesis here. Or, I guess in the short run and the long run, I'm going to take less damage here. So I go for this block. They use Lightning Bolt to deal 3 damage to the Endurance, and then they point the 3 damage from the Screaming Nemesis at me, so I'm not gaining any more life. Now in this turn, I go for Wingmate Mantisaur and a Survey Land, because again, I don't want to pay any life. I have a Duress, but I think they might try to hold on to burn spells because they want to surprise me. Their plan at this point has to be to point burn spells at my face because they're not going to get through these creatures. Switchgrass Grazer is a really good card here because it does actually get through the Wingmate Mantisaur. It's not the only creature that can do that, but it's one of a relatively small number. So that's another 4. Now I'm down to 9. And then the shock in hand takes me down to 7. So now things are starting to get a bit scary. I have this Savage Stomp to deal with the Switchgrass Grazer, but again, damage isn't coming off of the Wingmate Mantisaur, so it's going to die anyway. And at this point, I think, okay, I need to kill my opponent quickly, and I have the tools to do so. I have these great attacking creatures, bringing back the Endurance to get rid of the graveyard, so the Grim Lavamancer doesn't do as much. And I attack with the Wingmate Mantisaur here. Now, if they don't have enough mana to play On-Crop Crasher and use the Sandstorm Verge, so I would have the chance to block it with one of these unless they also have a removal spell, which they don't end up having. Let's see, in this turn, so I attack with 6 because I do also want to hit land drops, because lands will let me retrace some of these cards and also just help me play all the cards in my hand. Unfortunately, I didn't hit a land, which would have been very, very good here. If I hit a land here, do I just win the game? Almost certain. If I hit a land there, I think I would almost certainly just win. But it is what it is. And I end up escaping the Netherglyph and playing Thieving even here, trying to develop the board and hopefully win next turn. Again, I would love to draw land so I can play Wingmate Mantisaur, kill the Grim Lavamancer, but I don't quite do it. And now this turn is, it's certainly the turn, I think, in the tournament where I lost the biggest chance of winning a game. Because what I forget here is that Sandstorm Verge is a desert. So it can be sacrificed to the Ramunap Ruins for 2 damage, then they can sack the Ruins for 2 damage, Grim Lavamancer those 2 deserts from the graveyard for another 2 damage, and that's enough to kill me. So there's a couple ways that I could do this. But because I forgot that, I end up just attacking with all my creatures. There's probably even better plays, even if I forget that the Verge is a desert. But assuming that I remember it is, what I can do here is use the Omen on Cunning Azure Scale to get a land, use that to retrace Jace, and use the -1 to bounce the Lavamancer before they have enough cards to activate it from the graveyard. Then I can attack with Thieving even, and that will almost guarantee that I win the game next turn, because any burn spell or any haste creature out of their deck will be lethal next turn, guaranteed. And they will have relatively few draws that can kill me. Any burn spell here off the top kills me, and I don't think there's any way to stop that from happening. But if they don't draw a burn spell or a very specific creature, I'm basically guaranteed to win the game next turn if I make this play. And instead I don't, and I just go ahead and attack with all my creatures. They block with On-Crop Crasher, and at this point it's just a question of, can I hit a burn spell that goes to the face from their deck? And I can't. And none of these cards are relevant. If I go to kill the Grim Lavamancer, they just sacrifice Ramunap Ruins in response and activate it. There's no way for me to get around that. I did miss another land on 6, which I think even if I hit it, it wouldn't end up mattering here, because since the sacrifice is part of the cost, at this point there's no way for me to stop the Grim Lavamancer from triggering. I can't gain any life, so at this point there's really nothing that I can do. I didn't even think I was dead at this point, though. I forgot that they would still have this until they untapped. So I just played on my creatures, and then I looked at this. Yeah, that's me looking at the Ramunap Ruins and being like, wait a second, why do they still have this? I thought they sacrificed it. There it is. And there's me reading the card and realizing that it's a desert. And that was the end of game one. Um, pretty It's pretty bad to lose on the play. Again, being on the play in a matchup like this, really important. My plan is to get creatures on board and block. Their plan is to get creatures on board and attack. Whoever gets on board first is just always going to be one step ahead. So for game two got off to a very fast start, just in terms of the pace of play, because this opening hand was really good. I mean, like this is like this is a phenomenal opening hand. I have everything that I could want. I have Tamiyo Brainstorm. I have Orcish Bowmasters, one of the best cards against them. I have Toxic Deluge, an amazing card against them, and I have a Neoform, which has just been great all day. Now I can't cast the Neoform right now, but I have this Brainstorm to hopefully draw into a land, and the Clue. So I Snap Keep, jam Tamiyo on one, and now on turn two I could Brainstorm and flip Tamiyo and +1, and I kind of think I should have done that because it's very unlikely that they'd be able to kill the Tamiyo because the Strong Hercule would deal no damage. And then next turn, because it would still be a 1-1 because it can't deal damage, I can play Orcish Bowmasters and kill it, take up Tamiyo again. Now I have 2 blockers. And hopefully I would hit a land off the Brainstorm. Now, not playing the Brainstorm here does mean that I get to look 4 cards deep instead of 3 to find my next land, because I can use my next draw step. So there is an argument for not playing it here. Probably it was still better, but it's kind of debatable. I mean, also, like, if I hit a 3rd land here, like, this hand is so good that it's mostly fine. But then killing the Tamiyo here is frustrating and does take away one of the easiest ways for me to win the game, which is I flip Tamiyo and just keep ticking up, and the Strong Hercule will never do anything, and all of their creatures will be substantially worse. They have a Grease Wrench Goblin, so I need to Brainstorm here and look for a land. And I do find it. I have 3 looks. Like, the odds of me finding land are good. Though again, hitting a fetch land here is probably the best land I can hit, because now I can send away 2 cards. Having a swamp is a little awkward because it means that I can't Neoform this turn, but being able to just hold up Dismember or Sacred Clue token is good enough for me, and then I can play Neoform or Uro next turn. I pitched the Oasis because I think I don't need more card advantage. Like, my hand can do that fairly well, so we're good on that front. And I don't have a way to easily retrigger. Like, the way that I retrigger it with this hand is I cast Uro out of my graveyard, and if I'm doing that against mono red, I'm probably going to win anyway, so I'm not really super interested in that, though maybe there's an argument for keeping it. Maybe over something like Toxic Deluge, where, you know, they might not have a lot of creatures, but they also, like, another way I could lose this game if they just jam out a bunch of creatures here. Like, they play 2 creatures and they kill my Orcish Bowmasters, then Toxic Deluge would be really good, especially since I'm at 20 life, so I have a lot more life to give to try to prevent this board from going out of hand. Now, they make a sort of strange play here, which is sorry, that's a different game. Yeah, I'm thinking of another game where Goblin and Orcish Bowmasters both come into play, but we'll see that later. So they play Samurai's Katana, which makes a creature. I'm pretty happy about this because I'm happy to use the Dismember. If they had played 2 spells this turn, it would have been a little bit worse. They only played 1. So I pay 2 life, deal with the creature. That's done. I get to block the Goblin with the army, and now they have nothing left in play. I get to Neoform Oculus. It's a 6/6, so there is no single card in their deck that can deal with it. I think they have 2 deal 5s. It's like Dismember and Lightning Axe, but I'm pretty sure they have no deal 6s. So they would, at the very least, need 2 spells to deal with this. And even then, like, the shocks would, like, 2 shocks doesn't do it, a shock and a bolt doesn't do it. And they just end up having no way to actually deal with this Oculus. So they play a couple creatures, but it doesn't matter because I'm hitting them for 6 and making a 2/2 every turn. So even though I'm not hitting light land drops, even though this counterspell doesn't really do anything, I just win the game in 2 turns off the back of attacking with Oculus. So that takes us to game 3, where This hand I kept very quickly because I mean I see Orcish Bowmasters and my eyes go wide and I think, oh, I have to keep this. Um, I mean it's really one of the best cards in the matchup. It's so like playing mono red and seeing your opponent cast Orcish Bowmasters is so demoralizing. Um, so even though I'm on the draw and I'm gonna have to get a Watery Grave probably and pay 2 life and not impact the board on turn one, it combined with this Toxic Deluge are just so good, and the rest of my cards are pretty good, pretty low curve too, that I think it's just worth doing. So here's the game with the Goblin and the Bowmasters. Um, so I play the Verge, I Island Cycling for the Watery Grave to make sure I can play Bowmasters, um, and I draw another land on the second turn, so I'll at least hit another land drop, which is good. I only really need 3 lands for this hand to work, because again, everything costs 3 or less. And that's something about the deck is they're the overwhelming majority of the spells cost 3 or less mana, so you can keep relatively low hands and still end up with functional curves. They have a Fugitive Codebreaker, which I have to take out on my turn, so they don't get a prowess trigger. And then they attack. Yeah, so they use 2 burn spells to kill both my 1/1s, which I'm totally fine with, and they don't play a third land. So they're not getting closer to casting more powerful spells. They're not developing more to the board. They're giving themselves huge card disadvantage. That Orcish Bowmasters was a 3-for-1. So at this point, I'm very far ahead because I just have spells in my hand that I can cast, and it's turn 3. They just have a 2/1. They only have 2 lands in play. Netherglyph, another phenomenal card against mono red. Just a lot of these overstated creatures, creatures that offer you a lot for being very cheap, are fantastic against mono red. And I believe, yeah, this is the turn where they make a weird play to me. I don't remember exactly what's in their hand, so I don't know how it looks there. But attacking with the Goblin and then activating it means that this is another turn where they're not adding any creatures to the board. This is 2 turns in a row where they just didn't play a creature. And so I'm more than happy to take this trade because I'm looking at this Jet Collector as well. I believe Netherglyph is also card number 4. So I know that next turn, I'm just going to put so much on board. They have nothing in play. They have 0 creatures in play. And I'm about to have 3 creatures in play. 5 mana, one of them's a Thieving Haven, one of them is a Jet Collector. So they're under a lot of pressure now, and they're applying no pressure to me. So at this point, I feel very good about the game. They play a Roiling Vortex and a Falconroth Gorger, but I can just bring back the Orcish Bowmasters with the Jet Collector. So I hit them. I steal a Dragon's Rage Channeler because I do want to kill them relatively quickly. Like, the way I die is some combination of burn spells, right? I've got all the removal I need. I just need them to not, have, I don't remember if they're on Ghostfire Blade, but something like that with the Roiling Vortex is how I can lose. So I just take Dragon's Rage Chandler so I can deploy more to the board. I bring back Orcish Bowmasters, kill the Gorger. I play Delighted Halfling. I play Dragon's Rage Chandler. I have 7 creatures in play. They have 0. Like, this is just game in 2 turns, and they would need I think, like, they would need like 3 deal 3s or something. Like, they deal me 9. They would need something that is either doesn't exist or is so unlikely that this game is essentially over. They play a Tursa. I get another Bowmaster's trigger. I draw Abrupt Decay, which is just convenient in letting me destroy the Tursa. But even if I didn't draw this, I just attack with a bunch of creatures. If they block, I use Harvester of Misery on it. If they don't, then I either hit a spell that kills it with the Thieving Haven, or I bring back Netherglyph and block it with that. I have Fatal Push, I have Harvester. Like, this Tursa is not realistically going to do anything to me, even if I don't draw Abrupt Decay. This just makes my life a lot easier. I hit a Duress, which I keep, just to make sure they don't have a lot of burn spells. I hit a Lightning Bolt, which I can just take out of their deck so that they can't draw it. And at this point, they're dead next turn, and there's not really any combination of cards that could stop that from happening. So that's game 3, and we're moving on to game 4, up 2-1, and on the draw now. So this hand, this is a super high upside hand, right? I have Evo plus a Mana Dork. This is a turn 2 Oculus if I draw an untapped land and they don't kill my Mana Dork. Both of which are not guaranteed, but are also not impossible. And I think the upside is certainly worth it. Like, if I play Elvish Mystic and they kill it, I can play Birds of Paradise, and then they also have to kill that, or else I get the Oculus. So my hope is that they have no removal spells. If they have one, I still have a decent chance. I have no black mana for the Baleful Strix, and the Jace is not very good at this matchup, so it's arguably a mulligan, but I feel like the upside is high enough, and they're not necessarily going to kill on sight in Elvish Mystic, right? Like, it's very reasonable that, like, they play 1-drop, I play Elvish Mystic, they untap, they just cast a 2-mana creature. Maybe they can kill the Elvish Mystic, but they decide, like, if they don't have a second 1-drop, they decide they just want to get the 2-drop in play, and that's going to be more important, and they're just going to hope that I can't effectively use it that turn, and then they kill it the next turn, and I can really punish that. In general, they probably should kill the Mana Dork when I play it, but depending on what their hand looks like, they might not do that. They mulligan to 6, and it actually turns out in this position they had a Play with Fire as a shock in hand, and they put it on the bottom, which really comes back to punish them because I have this specific curve. Because they had a bunch of 1-drops in hand, like, probably they keep the Play with Fire, because I do have a lot of good 1 and 2 mana creatures that they'd want to kill. But it happens in this case that I have the absolute best curve to punish them. I draw an untapped land, so I know that if I just play the Elvish Mystic, I'm good to go next turn. And when they don't kill it, I'm like, all right, we're in business. Put down the Oculus, and from this point, if they don't have Dismember or Lightning Axe to kill it, they're going to be in huge trouble. They play the On-Crop Crasher that they hit off light up the stage, but at this point, even though this turn doesn't really do anything, I play a tap land and a Birds of Paradise. Like, I'm just getting free 2/2s. I have a 5/5 flyer. Like, if they attack, I probably don't block the Oculus, because now that I have these 2/2s, I can just block their creatures and start trading off, and I have enough life that I'm not, like, an easy way for me to lose this game is if they kill the Oculus and then play, like, a Switchgrass Grazer or something that can apply a ton of pressure, and I don't have a good answer for. But in this case, they actually just played out their whole hand, so I don't even need to worry about that. They didn't exert the On-Crop Crasher, which my guess is that this was, like, they wanted to exert it, but the way that Arena deals with exert, if you hit attack all, it won't give you the option to exert. You have to manually click it and select exert that way. So that's pretty unfortunate for them, because now I can just block it with Oculus. It's going to die. It's never going to get to exert. Though in this case, I don't. At this point, like, they have to just top deck an answer to Oculus, and then also beat everything else in my hand, which, since I know they don't have anything right now, I can just go ahead and block. Take out the Dragon's Rage Channeler, because the Bowmat Courier would give them Delirium, and maybe then the Dragon's Rage Channeler is a problem, and I'm not super worried about this. I think my plan right now is to Jace and maybe just bounce the Bowmat Courier. I think I end up brainstorming here, though, because I could just block it, and, like, at this point, I'm just really far ahead. Like, it would take an incredible sequence of draws for both of us for them to win the game. I put the Nethergoyf back on top so I can manifest it and flip it up. And here, I mean, this is just, like, they draw a spell that deals 4 damage, and my 1-drop has 5 toughness. Like, again, it doesn't have a huge outcome, a huge bearing on the outcome of the game, but it just lines up perfectly in this case. They attack, I can just block a creature because I have the Jet Collector, I know I can bring it back. I go to bounce the Courier just to make sure they don't get another card. I know they can just sack it, but I might as well just make them do it now. Bring back the Nethergoyf, play a Baleful Strix, and now I'm just going to have lethal next turn. I draw Dismember to kill another creature, I've got the Jace to kill another creature, I've got all these creatures in play. They have an Amped Raptor that hits a Wild Slash and a Fury, but it's just not enough because I have 5 from the Nethergoyf, 2 from the Jet Collector, and 2 from the Deathrite Shaman. I deal with the Amped Raptor, and that's the game, and that's the match, and that's the tournament. In general, I think Mono Red is a favored matchup because the deck can be so low to the ground, like the concentration of 1, 2, and 3 mana plays that are great because they are creatures that are good at blocking, but that can also generate advantage. Like a card like Jet Collector, right? I mean, this card's just great against everything, right? You can play it and then bring back creatures so you can get lots of value in the late game, but you even see it's easy to hit 4 cards in the graveyard, even by like turn 3 or 4, and then you just bring back 1 or 2 creatures that you traded off, and now you can assemble your whole board back again. And especially against a deck like Mono Red, just bringing back 1 or 2 creatures for relatively cheap, making sure that your draw isn't too awkward, is really nice. Biggest card they can play that's problematic is, of course, Blood Moon. Blood Moon can be very hard to beat. In this case, they weren't on Blood Moon, so that was very helpful for me. And even some of the cards like Maddening Hex is not a huge issue because I just have so many creatures. So I think this matchup's generally very good, and it worked out well for me here. And that is the end of the tournament. All right, so that is it for this video. Thank you all for joining me and watching here. So overall, between the matches I played in the week leading up to the event and the event, I was 17-2 overall with this deck. It felt really good. I feel like I really put it together quite well for this event. It felt good against pretty much everything except probably some of the more all-in combo style decks. The ones that play a lot of tutors, because you just don't have a ton of interaction for that, and you probably can't kill them fast enough on average, but it's not a matchup that you super have to worry about. So I think it was a good decision. This deck has a really good mana curve. I mean, like for a mid-range deck, it's really quite low, but it doesn't run out of stuff to do in the late game. You've got these fantastic value engines, lots of ways to draw cards and keep consistent. So very happy with that, as well as getting to play just some of the most powerful cards in the format and cards that can just shut down certain matchups and certain game states. Oasis of Removal, Verdant Dread, Orcish Bowmasters, Tameo, cards that can sort of single-handedly win games, and ways to tutor for them. I mean, Eldritch Evolution was certainly the star of the show in this tournament. I drew it a lot, and it was really, really good every single time. And that's an advantage that you get playing this deck, is that you get to play this card that's just phenomenally strong. This version is also less tutor reliant than previous versions I've played. I've played versions like Nature's Rhythm and Lotus Light Dancers, and it's like, oh, you can do the thing, it's very cool, and that's cool and that's fun. I like doing that, but this version is just, it's lower to the ground, it's like a turn faster, right? So instead of trying to put together, oh, this funky thing that I can do, it's like I'm just getting on board faster, and everything that I do is going to affect the board quickly or generate me a lot of advantage really quickly. Yeah, that's all I've got here. Thanks for joining me. I guess I'll be going for 4 in a row in the next one, and we'll see how that works out. And probably there will be some more videos if I play in events in the future, and I need to figure out a fun deck that I can play in the Gladiator games, which I'll probably be playing in, but I guess we'll have to see about that. All right, hope you all have a great day, and take care of yourself.